I have with me Chris Patterson.
Yes, sir.
And Chris is the owner of the Spring Street Smokehouse Barbecue.
That's right.
In downtown LA. A white man with a barbecue. And Chris is not married. And that's why he looks so happy. Also, we have Dr. Rael Sims. He is a neuropsychologist and relationship expert. He is married and lives in Los Angeles. And he's going to tell you how awful it is not to be married. And then last but not least, Kent Seaton. He is a well-known speaker and attorney here in Southern California. Thank you guys for coming. So Kent is not married either. Why not, Kent?
That's a good question. When you find me the right girl, I'll let you know.
And what is the right girl? What are you looking for?
I'm not looking right now.
You know? What were you looking for prior to not looking?
I don't know. You know what? I don't know if I've been looking. I've dated, extensively. So I've seen kind of the quality of women out there, and until I find a quality girl, I'm going to be single.
So do you want to be married? You would like to be married?
I don't know.
You don't know?
No.
You better hurry up. You're 40-something years old.
Hurry up for what? For misery?
Chris, you are not married. Why is that?
I'd have to echo. I don't know why that is. I would like to be in a relationship. I don't necessarily have a focus on marriage. But that's changed a lot. I think when I was younger, I had a real sense that there was a pattern that you fell into.
Yes.
I think that's pretty normal. With a lot of things, as I got older and I didn't fit that pattern anymore, all of a sudden I started to look at, is there something wrong with me? Am I not doing it right? Am I broken? And I think ultimately that led to where I am today, which is I spend most of my time working on me. And I'm not necessarily looking, although I date, and I've dated extensively.
So when you say you date extensively, what does that mean?
I think there was a time in my life wherein I dated weekly, 2 or 3 women, during the course of a week for
years.
Were you like
a player?
No.
You were not a player?
No. I think there's a fantasy of wanting to be a player, right? And I think there's a lot of fantasies, right? There's a fantasy to marriage, there's a fantasy to single life. All my married friends constantly badger me about how great my life is. And I'm like, well, I understand it from where you're coming from, your standpoint. But actually, I feel like there's a lot missing in my life.
Like what?
Of not having a partner.
Oh, you do?
Of a regular person. Yeah.
So you want to be married?
No, not necessarily. What I want is I want a relationship.
What does that mean, a relationship?
Oh, that's a good question. That's something that I ask myself all of the time. I think of it in terms of sports.
So
I like the idea.
You see it like a football game?
No, I mean...
you make a touchdown and then you throw the ball away?
No. No. That would be looking at my partner as the opposite team. And it really, what I'm talking about is being on the same team with someone. It's something that I think I look for in my business life, and I really like to look for it in my personal life as well. And I didn't. So I think your description, even though it's funny, is probably how I spent most of my 20s looking at dating.
Yeah.
But I'm not 20 anymore. I'm 42. When you ask me if I want to be married, I don't have a pressing need.
But you say you want a relationship. Mm-hmm. Is there a difference between being married and having a relationship, or is there another kind of relationship you want without the marriage part?
I think the word that I would use would be commitment, but I have a sense that maybe the doctor would have a clearer sense of describing that.
So when you say commitment, does that mean you want the sex and all that come with this commitment?
Monogamy specifically?
Do you want sex with this one person that you want this relationship with?
I think currently that's how I view commitment, yeah.
So why not get married?
For the same reason. I haven't found the person that I want to I want to commit to.
Doc, what's wrong with these guys?
I mean, you were asking great questions. I mean, I was just like, go ahead and take over, because those are the same questions that I would ask as well. We all, as human beings, we all have a need to belong. So even though we could say we don't want that connection, that's just totally impossible as human beings, because that's how we are surviving and living in the world, is by, like you said, you would like a partner, and that's something that we desire. as human beings. That's how we live because of other human beings on the earth.
But why do they want the partner without the marriage?
Well, today too is a new, different type of millennium now, where people are, sometimes, I'm not saying if that's the case, but sometimes we hear relationships or marriages that doesn't go well. And so that kind of put a little fear in us where you don't want to do it, because you've heard other friends say, oh, marriage is the worst, or I was divorced 4 times, or, married 4 times. And sometimes then that's a fear too. But you asked a great question. If you're looking for that companionship and you're together, then why not get married? Because, I've had a lot of people say, oh, well, marriage is just a piece of paper. Okay, then why not get married? Right. It's just a piece of paper, right? And most of it could be a fear of making that commitment. You can make the commitment of being girlfriend, boyfriend, but taking that next step of being husband and wife also could be. I'm not just saying it is, but sometimes it could be a fear of
I've noticed over the years that a lot of young men, like these guys, it's hard for them to find a woman who is ready to be a wife. Women seem to be very competitive nowadays.
Yes.
And they want the same kind of relationship that a man wants. They want it to be equal, and it doesn't work that way.
It's
and
impossible.
So a lot of guys are totally miserable who've gotten married, and they're afraid to leave because it costs too much money to leave. So they're trying to hang in there until they get a heart attack and die.
Yeah.
But what do you say to guys who are running into those type of girls?
And one thing that we don't do, this is something that I used to always tell women, and I was like, well, wait a minute, let me also share this with men. I don't know if anybody cooks here, but if I wanted to cook something, meatloaf, and I have all my ingredients and I have my meatloaf. If I take that meat away, I can't make my meatloaf, because we have to understand, in order to understand a non-negotiable requirement, we have to understand who? Self. We have to understand self. It's no different than being an employer. So if you're the employer and you know that you're hiring, what are you hiring? You have to know what you're hiring.
Meaning what type of woman you're getting?
What kind of woman you're looking for you. Not for your friends, not for your brother,
the type
not
of
for
person you're looking for.
What kind of person that you're looking for yourself. A lot of us don't really know self. We say we know self. We say we love self, but we really don't know self.
How long have you been married?
I've been married for 20 years now.
20 years? Are you married to a black woman or a white woman?
Black woman.
You've been married to a black woman for 20 years?
Yeah, she's Asian black. Yeah.
Oh, she's not all black. What is she? Asian black.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what keeps you hanging
Well, she has the dreadlocks and everything. So. She considers herself African American, though.
She does? Yeah, she took the black side?
Yeah.
And so, how did you meet your wife?
I worked for the movie industry as an advisor to add in neuroscience when people were doing movies. I mean, she was doing a couple of films for Showtime. And during that period, it led from being friends and working together. And then we were together for a very long time, working together. And then from that, just led on to a relationship.
Are you the head of your wife?
Yes, I am.
And what does that mean?
Well, that means when it comes to decision making, I'm the person. However, she's still there to also help me with that decision that I decide to make. Now, when we use the word submit, right, and I know a lot of people hate to hear that word submission, but in my hypothesis, I really think that the submission is for that woman to be there for her husband when we're in certain situations, and it may get very challenging.
Right.
So she has to submit that intellect that she has to give me, to let me know that I'm on the right track.
Does she do that? Your wife does it?
Oh, yeah,
Does she do it?
And I respect that.
I've noticed that a lot of guys, and I know none of you guys are doing this, now when they're dating, they spend a lot of money on the woman. They buy her clothes, they buy her car, they take her to Hawaii, they just spend truckloads of money while dating. Anybody out there guilty of this? See there?
Yeah.
Poor guys. Is that good to do?
No.
And why not?
Well, okay. All right, let me say this. It's good to do as far as the tradition we've been taught. You meet someone, you take them out, you take them to dinner.
But not a real expensive dinner, right?
Well, actually, that is what we do because of the tradition, right? But really, if you go back to the old days, that's not what you do.
No.
When you go back to the old days, it
Not at
was
all.
you meet at the person's house.
Yes.
There was like a little swing on the porch.
Yep.
Right? You sit down and make sure that daddy knows that he's out there, you know, and you're on the porch and you're swinging and you're getting to know her.
That's right.
Because it's so important for us men, it's really important for us to say, hey, wait a minute, whoa, let me get to know her first.
That's right.
Let me really get to know her, not jump into this tradition. Let me really get to know her because I might not like her. And I've spent $500 and something and you may not get nothing in return out of that. You know what I'm saying?
So do you do that? Do you spend money on these women?
No.
What?
No.
You don't spend money?
And don't get me wrong, not that it's a bad thing. It's
a bad thing.
If you feel like you like the person, in the future, then that's the time. But you can go to the beach, you can go to other places. Don't be fooled into thinking that, and especially today, a lot of us are on fixed incomes, and you spend everything. You spend your rent, and now you're broke. Now you're calling the bill collectors, telling the bill collectors, giving them excuses.
And the girl is
everything.
gone.
And the girl is gone.
Yeah.
Because she doesn't like you.
Let me ask Chris.
Yeah.
So have you done that? Spent money on the girls that you
Have I?
dated?
Yeah, I have, absolutely.
You bought cars and clothes
No,
and expensive restaurants and things.
No, I haven't spent that
Have
kind of
you
money.
taken
but
them on trips?
I have not. No, I
So
haven't
what
done
kind
that.
of money you spent?
I mean, clearly not that kind of money. But relative to my income at the time, yeah,
What would you buy them?
Expensive dinners and that sort of thing. But I'll tell you that's a long time ago. My experience for the last 10 years, I can tell you my last
I know,
big
but before
date.
you do, the only thing that money you have spent on them is for a dinner, a nice dinner.
That's true. Although I consider that to be a lot of money at the time.
It is. But on nothing else, you have not done that.
No.
Oh, okay. And how did you avoid that? No wonder you don't have a woman.
I don't think I ran in
too
circles
cheap.
of people who were buying women cars on their first date. I don't know where those circles
Well,
are.
that's good. Why didn't you do that? What made you not do it?
I don't think I knew it at the time, but I knew that wasn't the role that I wanted to play, within the context of that part of a relationship.
Yeah. When I was growing up, that was a no-no. You do not spend money. The girl's father did not want you to spend the money on his daughter. Don't take money from that man. He's up to something. And my grandmother used to say, don't spend money on her unless you're ready to marry her. Long story short, when I was in the 11th grade, I was dating this girl, and she asked me for a quarter. And I had been dating her for a while. Very nice, pretty girl, too. And she asked me for a quarter to buy some bubble gum. We used to buy this little round bubble gum. And I dropped her. I dumped her that day. Because I thought she was taking advantage of me. Chris, do you have sex before marriage?
Yes,
You do?
Yes.
And why?
because I enjoy it.
I'm sorry?
Because I enjoy it.
They can't hear you over there.
Sure.
And does that affect the relationship once you have sex? Let's say you meet her, you're walking down the
Absolutely.
road.
Yes,
In
absolutely.
what way?
That's a big question. I mean, I can see how it changes for her. I know that it changes differently for me. Some of it has to do with when that might happen. I've had a couple of relationships that have lasted a few years. And so in those places, it deepened our relationship at the time. But often if sex happens or comes into the relationship too soon, it even though I don't want it to be this way, it often sort of cheapens the relationship.
Yeah, it changes.
Yeah.
So if you know that, why do you have sex before marriage? Then?
That's a good question. Of course, that's the question of why do I keep doing all the things that I do in my life that hurt me rather than help me, right?
And the answer is?
You got me. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
But those are things that I work through, as I go through life.
Yeah.
But specifically to your question, I have a sense that a little bit of what the doctor was talking about is there's a normal way of interacting in our society. And you guys are talking about sitting on a porch swing. Clearly, that's not part of my experience. Right? And as much as I like to think of myself as an individual, and I'm a free thinker, and I make my own rules, and all this stuff, the reality is that I follow these patterns as much as anybody else does. So some of it, even though I don't like to necessarily admit it, would be that. That the decision isn't something that I set out to make. It's, well, everyone else is doing it. This is how you date. This is how it becomes.
Right.
And that's not always the case, you know. And
were you raised by your father and mother?
Yes.
You were. And do you have sex with these girls?
I do, yeah.
You do?
Yeah.
And are you proud of yourself?
I'm proud of myself.
Why do you do it?
I think it's kind of the same thing that Chris is talking about. I think it's relatively common, in today's society. That's not having sex before marriage is a pretty unusual thing.
So you do it because it's common.
Yeah, pretty
If
much.
it wasn't common, would you do it?
I don't know. I really don't
Really?
know.
So you really have sex because you know that everybody else is doing it?
Well, I think it's a lot of what you do is because what other people are doing.
Right.
I mean, it's just sort of you end up doing stuff. So
He said it felt good. It's like a joint. Right.
that's your words, not mine.
Doc, should they be having sex before marriage?
Well, spiritually speaking, if you want to say spiritually speaking.
No, they're just regular speaking.
But regular speaking, they're men. They're men. And biologically.
What does that mean?
Well, biologically, we have that urge anyway.
Should we go without urges?
We could try to go without that urge or fight that urge, but that urge biologically is there. It is there as males. And getting into the relationship, that's the challenge that you're going to have to deal with because, our bodies are designed to procreate. And that's what when we're around women, that's the first thing that's happening. Now all of the traditions and group thinking goes out of the window and biology comes in because our mind and our body, we know that this is a female. And one of the challenges is, and the danger is, when you with women, like say if a woman is ovulating, when she's ovulating, she's releasing a chemical called copulence. And we see all animals, all female animals and canines when they're in heat. Well, the same with us human beings too. When women ovulate, they also release a chemical called copulence. And when the male smells the copulence, we also release a chemical called androstenone. And so the woman smells the androstenone, and next thing you know, we end up having sex, even on the first night. This is how people have sex on the first night, in clubs and stuff like that too, because biology jumps in. And
so do you smell it?
Do I smell it, Doc?
They're not aware.
See, you didn't know that was going on, right?
I think I did, but,
You did?
but no, I don't smell it.
You don't smell it.
And one danger of the having the sex with the woman is, you guys heard of the word oxytocin. Can you tell me what it is right fast?
It's a chemical that releases from the female side of your brain that basically creates an emotional attachment to the male.
It bonds them together, right? And this also happens when a female is having a child. And this is the bond, as well as the male too, because us males, we have a little oxytocin as well. And this bonds us to our son, as well as the daughter bonds to the mother.
You recommend then, since all this is going on, is it better to wait until marriage?
Well, what happens
Even
is
though
when that chemical oxytocin is released, it goes into a certain part of your brain, the caudate nucleus, the nucleus accumbens, and that's our pleasure center part of the brain. And what happens is, when that happens, the woman will feel like or think she's in love. And now you can't get rid of her. This is why the women are always calling and always calling, and you really don't like her. But now you're like, oh man, it's because of that release of the oxytocin, the bonding, because she thinks, she's thinking she likes you, but actually she's bonded to that sex and that release of that oxytocin.
I just thought of a way not to have sex before marriage. All you have to do is think about all that, what the doctor just said, and by the time you're done thinking, you won't feel like having sex. Think about the osmosis and all this smelling stuff, and you wouldn't want to do it. You were about to tell me you spent money on a girl at one time, and I cut you off. Remember?
Oh, actually, it's the opposite. There was, as I was younger, I might have spent more money. Now I don't at all. My last date, I took her to the gun range on a first date.
Right on.
Because that's what
that sounds like a nice thing to do.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It's what I wanted to do. She had never done it before. I thought, hey, well, let's see what happens.
Maybe it might not be so nice.
Yeah,
So, Doc, my last question about this. If it wasn't for sex, would men have anything to do with women?
Oh, that's a good one. No. I mean, because again, it goes back to the biology of it. It goes back to, that's just the way we're designed as males, is to procreate.
Right.
Because our bodies are not thinking, oh, relationship, girlfriend, boyfriend. It could care less, and that's why
Right.
it is the danger of being with another female, by yourself, because now the body kicks in, and it's like, hey, this is a female. That's why we're here today.
So do women know that if it wasn't for her sex, men would not have anything to do with them?
Yes.
They know that?
Women, let's say, women who are taught to know, to understand, and to know that you are female, and men want what you have.
Right.
And that's something that we have to be careful too, because that's how we can be manipulated. Because women are out there, they are aware of that. They are mindful of it, and that's when they'll say, well, buy me something else again, or buy me a truck and buy me a boat, and but they know that they're manipulating you because you want something from them.
Yeah.
And so you have to be mindful, and you have to be careful, and you have to be in control of yourself as a man. You have to say, hey, no, let's do this, let's do that, because I don't really know if I like you or not.
Chris, what is a man?
My personal definition of what it means to be a man is someone who holds space. And what I mean by that is that when you're in a place, let me give you an example. When Larry was up here, did anyone have any sense that he wasn't in control of the room at all? He held the space. He held this entire room, even though it's full of men. And I think really being a man means creating that space. And since we're talking about women, in relation to women, holding that space allows the feminine to be able to express who she is, because she's crazy. They're nuts, it's very difficult to deal with women.
Did you say women are nuts?
Yes, absolutely. I have nothing but difficulty in dealing with women. Let's be honest. Even my own mother, and I love her so much. But I don't understand them, and they're very emotional, and I don't get that. And, it's all over the place. But what I can do in that is I don't get caught up in it anymore.
Right.
And that's what I used to do.
Yeah.
I used to run around trying to figure out how to make everything okay. I don't make anything okay anymore. Right. Now I just hold my space. I'm cool right here. You want to go nuts and spin circles? Great, I'll be here when you're done.
You hold on to that safe space.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And so that's what I think being a man is, and really that's more of a description of what a man does.
Are you a man?
I am a man.
You are a man.
Yes.
And Kat, what is a man?
It's a great question. A man is somebody that doesn't react to the outside world, has a sense of calmness about who they are, a sense of clarity, sense of confidence, a sense of kindness as well, to try to help people overcome their issues. That's what a man is.
And so are you a man?
Yeah.
You're a man?
Yeah.
Let me ask you something about your parents. You say you can't stand your mother, right?
No. I love my
you say she's difficult.
Well, yes, as a woman, she's difficult.
Right,
sure.
what I mean. And so does she get on your nerves sometimes, like make you angry?
Of course.
She does?
Of course.
And when you talk to her about it, what does she say?
I am nothing but respectful towards her. So I don't bring up her faults to her. There's no space for that in the relationship that we have. No, because I respect her as my mother.
But if you respect her, you would be honest with her.
Yeah, and you know what, in all fairness, we have a pretty open and honest relationship, but I don't reach out to my mother to look to fix her.
No, it might fix you. if you finally can deal with her.
And that might be true, but if she were to bring it to me and ask me, I would be honest with her, and I would have that conversation.
But she might not be aware that you're feeling this way.
Yeah, well, I see that as my father's role in their relationship. And, the role of a son and a father and a mother, those are difficult things. We're not talking about just me talking to a woman. That's a very special relationship, and it has certain parameters.
So what do you think would happen if you went to your mother and say, Mom, you make me angry when you do this or you say this? It's just,
well, now
it's
that's
been
different.
an issue all of my life, and I'm sick of it.
That's different. Now we're talking about my anger. So I have done that.
Right.
Me expressing my anger is okay. Expressing how I'm feeling to anyone is always okay.
But not telling her how she is?
Well, it's not my role to tell her how she is.
Why not?
Because it just isn't.
But you are a man and you love her, right?
I do.
And isn't part of love being honest?
Sure.
So if you love her, why can't you be honest with her about her?
I can. I'm just relating to you that that's how I see it. I'm not necessarily saying that I'm right.
Oh, I see.
But I am saying that that's how I see my relationship with my mother, and I see the relationship with my father and my mother as a son. I see what you're talking about more as the role of my father. And by the way, I think my father does a very good job at that.
So do you tell your father on her when she's acting out?
No.
You don't go tell your dad?
No.
Why not?
Because I don't get in the middle of my mother and father's personal relationship.
But you need help.
I don't need it.
You want me to talk to her?
I don't. My mother's a very sweet woman.
But if you notice, the women you get involved with, personality is somewhat like your mother's personality. You can't deal with them either.
Well, now that's a whole other issue of psychology, right? Of who you date and whether they reflect your mother. And on some level, it is.
Yeah,
sure.
And why is that?
I don't know.
Because the last person you want is a woman like your mother, right? And yet you keep ending up with that same personality. You think that it's different and end up being the same.
I'd have to think about that if the last person I want is a woman like my mother. I think that there's a lot of characteristics about my mother that I really respect.
Right, I understand that.
So,
but the bad part.
No. So if what you're saying, listen, I said that a little bit in jest, right? That women are difficult and emotions are difficult.
Well, that's
I'm
true.
not, a little bit in jest, right? But the reality is that part of what I like about having a female component to my life is that they make me better because they make me try harder.
Try harder to do what?
Well, to do, for instance, like understand my emotions better. Because if all I did was hang out with men, we would never talk about, we would never talk about that. I would never get into that.
So that's going to be my next question in a minute. I want to ask you about that. But let me ask you, the girls you come in contact with, do they remind you of your mother?
No.
In no way at all?
Well, they're all the same.
What does that mean?
All women are the same.
So all the women you meet are just like mama?
They're all the same.
And why is that?
Ask God how he made them all the same.
And when you say the same, in what way?
Emotional, manipulative, controlling. Those are the good qualities, by the way.
Oh, God. We're going to have prayer after this. How do you deal with that? When you run into those type women, how do you handle it?
I say, girl, sit down. I'm joking. No, with women, I'm very direct with women, and if a woman that I'm dating doesn't get over that, it's over. It's not really a complicated process.
It's just over.
Well, no, I talk to them.
Is it hard to walk away?
No, not at all.
It's never hard. Is it hard? When you were dating, was it hard to walk away?
In relationships where I've created my own emotional bond, those are hard to walk away from. But in dating, no, it's very easy to walk away.
Doc, if they don't have sex before marriage, isn't it easier to walk away from it if it's not working?
Not really. Not
No?
really, because you can have an emotional relationship without having sex too. And that's even greater, actually. We know through studies that the emotional relationship is very significant in a relationship versus the sex.
Is it normal for men to be emotional?
Yes, we're creatures. Everybody, we both can be emotional, and that's
So
that's
if
a
you
myth.
are an emotional man who is dating or married to an emotional woman, who's going to help who? There's no help.
Well, we help each
Because
other.
it sounds like everybody's drowning.
Well, you help each other because we have to understand too. we're human and we do have emotions.
What is that normal though?
Well, yes, and matter of fact, one of the leading death is us holding those emotions because we say we're men, and because we don't talk to our significant other. And that is one of the things, for instance, men don't cry. So we shouldn't cry until somebody die, right? So, but we know deep down inside, especially psychologically speaking, we have a lot of my patients is because the male could not articulate to their significant other. So they held it in for so long till it became chronic depression.
So let me ask you out because I'm sorry to be rushing here. Mm-hmm. When I was growing up, my grandfather was never emotional, and
he was taught that.
But I knew he just wasn't. Men were not into that, but I knew he loved me the way that he disciplined me, and he was there, and I knew he loved me, and he wasn't a complicated guy. Yeah. But my grandmother was emotional, and she was more complicated than my grandfather was, and so it seemed like the one that wasn't emotional did the right thing. And you knew that person loved you, and it didn't mess with your mind. Yeah. But with emotional parents, it screws up the kid.
I have to say, too, when we talk about the emotions, it's not the same. The male's emotions is not the same as the female. So we're not talking about two equal emotions. The male is, he's crying and she's crying, and both of you crying and you can't help each other. In short, it's where us males, when we run into challenges, when we run into the point where we need to speak when we need to get counsel from somebody else.
Let me ask, Chris, when you were dating, did you ever talk to your woman about your problems?
Only recently, in the last few years.
And why? What made you start doing that?
Because I had that, what I think of as dysfunctional sense of what manhood was that you described with your grandfather. Mm-hmm. That's the expression that my father had, and my grandfather was even more so than that. Mm-hmm.
That's dysfunctional?
I do think that's dysfunctional.
That's not dysfunctional.
I think that you should be able to share how you're feeling. What I don't do is I don't lose myself in it. Mm-hmm. And what I see the females or the feminine do is they lose themselves in their emotions.
So when you would tell your woman about your problems,
sure,
how did they feel about you afterward?
I think overwhelmingly, it's been a positive experience.
In what way?
I feel that I was respected more afterwards for being able to do that, yeah.
Do you talk to them about your emotions?
No.
You don't, and why not?
But I don't have any reason to tell them.
But is it wrong to do that? Is it good to do that or not?
If you open up to a woman and you tell her all we're talking about personal problems, right? I mean, not because somebody didn't pay me or something like that. You're talking about like real problems, right?
Real issues.
The women don't respect you. They'll pretend like they do, and they'll put on a whole show. Oh, sweetie, come here, and then they're patting your head and secretly thinking, "What a weak guy this guy is."
Over the last 26 years, I've counseled with guys who tell their women their problems, and then the women end up judging them for it for life.
And
they don't ever forget it.
Mm-hmm.
They constantly remind you of it. And then they think that you're weak.
Yes, absolutely.
They get you to do it, and then when you do it, they hate you for doing it.
Absolutely. And those are the women, and that's what I wanted to say too, those are the women that also have been manipulated by the tradition, by other women, that this is what, if a man is going to express himself, then he's weak. And you're so right.
Do you tell your wife your problems?
Absolutely.
You go home, you say, "Oh, honey, I had a hard day," and
you get things when you do that.
So that's why you do it.
Yeah, you get things when you do that. Yes.
So you tell your wife your problems?
Well, when it's necessary. Because this is another thing too.
I had a patient today, and that patient was awful. And it just made me sick. You tell her that kind of stuff?
No. No. And you have to be careful, too, to lay a load on woman as well.
Yeah.
So you have to be careful with that, too, as well, because we lay that load on woman, and she also, she's taking care of you. She's taking care of the kids. She may have a 9 to 5 as well. So that's pretty much of a load too, because it's our responsibility to make sure that we don't stress our wife out.
I noticed that
as well.
when men get married, not all, but most, when they get married, they become a boy, and the wife become the mother. It's become
Yeah,
a
that can
mama
happen
and
too.
son relationship. Why is that?
That is because some men weren't raised with their fathers, or if they wasn't raised with their fathers, they just didn't have that. They didn't have the necessary tools in order to establish a vitalized, harmonious, cohesive working relationship. A lot of us, we get into relationships sometimes just to be loved, just to feel good. And we're actually in a relationship with a woman instead of just having a relationship with another male friend, and just having a great time going to the football game, loving each other, and that, in a straight way, right?
Yeah, made that clear.
But having that,
But now, let me ask you
sometimes
this.
we'll get into
I'm sorry
that
to cut you off, but let me ask: do you believe that you become like what you hate, and you become attracted to what you hate?
I think we could become what we hate.
So if a guy resents his mother, and he resent her, and he become attracted to her, so he's not going to get with her, but he would unnaturally be attracted to other women who are just like mama, but then he can't deal with her because he couldn't deal with his mother, and just goes on cycle to cycle.
And that's vice versa as well.
No, I'm just talking about with the men, though.
But men could do it too. That's why it's so important too for us men to articulate, to have conversations with mom.
That's true, but let me ask. So if he resists his mother, he's attracted to a woman just like his mother, and he become a boy with her, could that be the reason that this mom and son relationship develop once they get involved with these women?
Yeah, that could be one of the reasons.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how would one overcome that?
Well, it still goes back to the situation, like in the situation with moms. But although you said, because I've heard a couple of times you said that's dad's place, right? That's your father's place. That's your father's place. But also, if there's something that we have to deal with mom, I think it's very important to deal with that with moms, to have a conversation with moms, because that helps you to have a conversation with your significant other. You see, that helps you when we don't, and we don't realize that, because it's just as important, right? And just as important for a woman to have a relationship with her father, right? In order to know how to articulate and how to communicate to her significant other. So I think it's very, very important. If we have an issue with moms, then we need to sit down and we need to talk this out too.
So as well. I help you, and the only thing I would ask is for some barbecue. Thank you guys. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. All right.